All right, welcome to Parent Like a Professional, PLP. And this is our panel with parents and professionals. And our topic this week is Halloween. So we want to jump in and talk about various questions that come up or ideas that we have about Halloween and how to make sure we have a very fun and safe night with our kids. So I kind of think about Halloween as something that we have to prep for a lot in terms of finding the costume and figuring out what we're going to do that night. So I was going to jump in and start talking about how do we start prepping for Halloween with our kids.
Oh, cool.
And
So I
Kian,
used
do you
to,
want
I
to?
know in the past and I have three children, two are teenagers, one's a preteen. So really the teenagers are way too cool to do, the Halloween that we used to do. But when they were younger, a couple of things that we would do to prepare them was, we'd buy the glow in the dark nightsticks and we make them into necklaces so that we would be able to easily spot them out when they were in large crowds. So that was like one of the major things that I thought was a must, was to make sure that they had not only reflective clothing on, but glow in the dark necklaces and crowns, so that we could find them easily in a large crowd, which was very helpful, especially when you have three kids and they're running in different directions with so many other kids out on the street, which was huge. And then when you share that idea with everybody and everybody starts doing it, then you remove them. So you find the kids that don't have, the glow in the dark sticks and such. But that's what we would do to get started.
How many of you guys are going to be planning on going trick or treating with your kids this Halloween? Is everybody here doing that?
I plan
I'm gonna
to.
pass out candy.
Pass out candy, because that's one of the things I remember when my kids were a lot younger. But we would decide, are we going to go out or are we going to pass out candy? Because passing out candy is also can be really fun, especially for the really little ones, because they get to see all of the costumes coming up. So that's always kind of fun as well. And then do you guys go usually in big groups with Halloween? Do you go by yourselves? Is there one spot you go to?
I think it's always important to go like in big groups and also go into neighborhoods where they're like a lot of people are going and they have like multiple haunted houses and things of that sort. Because then you have your big group of kids, but there's groups everywhere and everybody's kind of trying to be safe instead of being like on an isolated block where there's not a lot of houses giving out candy. So when I go out and do my trick or treating, I'm definitely going to go out in a group and try to go out into a place where there's a lot of trick or treaters.
I think we haven't quite found the spot in our neighborhood. Like every year we've gone somewhere different. And so Harrison isn't too cool to go trick or treating with me. So he'll kind of go like wherever he wants to go with friends. But I agree. Like I think going to like a desolate neighborhood, I think it's better to go where there's like a lot of people and just a lot of eyes and a lot of kids. It makes it more fun too. Like I've been in neighborhoods where there's not a lot of people and it's kind of boring. Like to go where there's like lots of decorations and lots of families, and I think it makes it a better experience.
For sure. If you have the haunted
everyone.
houses and you have all the decorations, you have the spirit of Halloween on that street.
Yes.
We would invite other families to come and join us pre trick or treating. All the moms and dads would come with their kids. It would be a pre Halloween or pre trick or treating Halloween party. We'd have appetizers, drinks. The moms would stay back with the real little ones, pass out the candy, and then the dads would go out as a group. And we were with a large group, like Keon was saying, which was really nice, lots of fun. The trick was always keeping an eye on the kids because you're engaged in conversation with all your friends, but focusing not only on your kids, but everybody within the group before you move on. But yeah, it's such a great experience for all of us, at least, when we were trick or treating, when the kids were younger, moms, dads, kids, and it was a huge event for us.
Kian, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say also other settings to go to. And they're a little lighter in these settings, but like they also have trick or treating within shopping malls and outdoor malls. They have trick or treating you can go to. Some of the amusement parks have the open door policy for trick or treating, and those are really, really safe places where you can make sure you keep your kids corralled. And there's a lot of good families out there. So there's multiple settings, not just going within your neighborhood, but try those outdoor malls and indoor malls and amusement parks. They're really fun places to go. Pumpkin patches also.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I think like trunk or treat's like a bigger thing now. Like a lot of like schools or churches will do a trunk or treat. And so I feel like that's usually before Halloween, but it's more of like a smaller smaller event where the, kids are kind of kept in one area, and it's usually, it's people that so, and it's a shorter event, you don't have to walk so much. So yeah, so it's not just neighborhoods. You're right, Kia.
Have you guys ever had any kids, your own kids or kids that you might have gone with, that you either work with or nephews and nieces that maybe don't like Halloween or are a little bit really scared of it, or what have you done? Or other like places like you're saying the trunk or treat or more daytime treating, or I don't know, what are some of the things that you've done with kids that don't really enjoy the whole Halloween thing?
So my son is 4 and he does not enjoy Halloween. He does not want a costume. He doesn't want to get dressed. I've tried to show him that it's not all about ghouls and goblins. You can get superhero costumes. You can get Smurf costumes or Mickey Mouse costumes of that sort. So I think that kind of eases the tension a little bit for the kids that are a little bit scared, not always making it about a scary thing. It can just be about just dressing up and becoming a different character and enjoying candy. So that's been my approach with it. I'll bet it makes it difficult to find places to go to, where there aren't going to be ghouls and goblins out.
Does anybody do like family themes? Like I know my sister and my brother-in-law were huge with this, and we would do it when the kids were younger, but we did like a Star Wars theme where, I was a Jedi Knight. My oldest son, who was just a little one at the time, was a Jedi Knight. My middle son was Yoda, and then my wife and daughter were Princess Leia's. So that was a lot of fun as a group, and the pictures were really cool. But we did that, and then other family members, they would do family themes, and it wasn't a competition, but it was a competition.
Yeah, no, it's become big. I've seen people, the coolest one I've seen is a family dressed up as trophies. They had all one color, and then they had their bodies spray painted the same color, and then they would just all pose like real still, and it was a really cool costume. So
right on.
That's a good idea.
There was lots.
It's a must in our house. Yeah.
Is that what have you guys done, Stephanie?
I think when Harrison was 3, that was the first family costume, and we were like Toy Story. So I was Jessie, Al was Buzz, and he was Woody. Harrison was Woody. And so that was like the start of every year now. What are we going to be, Mom? And he's almost 11 and he's still like, what are we going to be this year, Mom, for Halloween? And so I love that he's not too cool to like dress up with me. And this year he actually has 2 of his friends that are going to join our theme. And it's going to be Star Wars, which I am not a Star Wars fan at all. But in the spirit of having a dog named Darth Raider, he is going to be Darth Vader, the dog, and we're all going to dress up around him. So
if you need a costume, I'll send it your way, because we've done family costumes. And last year, Lucy told me as an 8-year-old that she is no longer doing family costume. So after 7 years of family costumes, it was over. But we've done Star Wars, Toy Story, superheroes, Monsters, Inc., but a whole bunch of family ones, and now it's gone. It's left.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Or find out what she wants to be and then just tailor it around her.
I know. Right?
We'll all surprise.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I will hit you up for costumes.
The theme is so great because, Keon, you recommended being in groups, and like we're talking about, you need to know where your kid is, but your kid needs to know where you are too. Mm-hmm. If you're in a family theme and you're in a group, it makes it very easy for your child to be able to look back and be like, that's my mom and dad. I need to go talk to them before I go to the next house. Like, that's such a good idea, guys. I love it.
Or even if you just, there's good Samaritans out there and your kid gets a little bit far away from you and there's somebody else who spots your kiddo and they're like, oh, he has on the baseball outfit or the Star Wars outfit. He's supposed to be with that family that has the Star Wars outfit on. So
that's a good one.
It's always good to dress in themes with your family. But I thought it's interesting how you mentioned Lucy's gotten older and doesn't want to do the theme anymore, which kind of like almost a segue into like, what do you do for the older teenage kids who doesn't want to do the trick-or-treating with the family? They want to go out to parties or go do haunted houses or egg houses and tissue houses. How do we control for that?
Question.
I mean, I can tell you from my end, having 2 teenagers, you know, for the most part, as they get older, they want to hang out with their friends, they want to do their things. I mean, hopefully not egging houses, but uh, doing their own costume parties. And, you know, it's kind of the transition to independence. So, you know, you give them those opportunities. If they make the mistakes, you take those opportunities to talk about those mistakes. But, you know, that's where we're at with 2 out of the 3. The third one's almost there. It happens very quickly. So if you're still trick or treating with your little ones, enjoy it, because, you know, Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and it's a bummer not to be able to trick or treat with the little ones. But yeah, it's that transition to independence as teenagers. They want to hang out with their friends, and you know, you got to give them a little bit of that independence.
So what are some of the steps you take as a father of teenagers, as far as making sure they're safe when they're out there, but you can't necessarily be there with them? Are there like rules that you set, or is it just like, I trust them type of a thing?
Yeah, so you know, it's not about like, I would love to say I trust, but it's like, it's really saying, do I trust what's out there? You know, it's not that I don't want to trust my children, but there's so many other things that are heavily influencing our children today. So, you know, we have specific rules when the kids need to be home. Sometimes we give them extensions, not always, but you know, we have their deadlines. If it's a school night, it's obviously going to be a lot earlier, regardless if it's Halloween. If it's a weekend, you know, they have their specific deadlines when they have to be home. You know, technology now allows us to track our children, so we can track them on the iPhone. My children know that we're tracking them. And on a couple instances at the very beginning, they would turn off the trackers. And so I would tell them, you're not only going to lose your phone, you're not going to be able to go out. So that doesn't happen anymore. But and then I need to know where they're going to be at, and I need to know that there are parents there. So if they want to go to a Halloween party, there's got to be responsible adults. I need to know who they are. I need to know the parents, and there is a deadline as to when they have to come home. So would love to hear other ideas, but that's what we're doing right now for our teenagers. And they're young teenagers, I should say 13 and 15. I mean, obviously, if you know, they're 17 and 18, different set of rules, different time constraints and such.
I have a question. So since we're on the topic of safety, and I know we're talking about safety in terms of teenagers who are going out on their own and doing things, I want to reel it back into, what about the safety preparation for the younger kids, even the kids that are going trick-or-treating with their parents? Let's say in the event that they get lost, are you having those conversations with them prior in terms of what they should be doing in the event that they can't find their parents or you can't find them?
That's a great question.
That's a
You know,
really good question.
yeah, you know, it's funny is I think in the past when we would go to Disneyland or to an amusement park, I would say to the kids who are very young, I'd say, if you get lost, meet us here. And then I'm thinking like, I don't even know how to get back here. I don't know how they're going to find the place, you know, but, you know, I think that's a great idea, is at least in a neighborhood that they're familiar with, depending on the age, is coming up with, hey, if you get lost, maybe a general rule. Stay at the house that you last trick-or-treated and we'll come back and find you. Don't try to find us.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably a rule I would suggest with little ones. If they're a little older, then you could tell them either the same thing or there's a meeting spot if we get lost. But, you know, it's kind of like you have to know your child, not just their age, on how they can follow rules and how they can navigate that, you know, current environment, especially at night with a lot of people trick-or-treating.
Do you guys advise teaching your kids one of the parents' phone numbers, making sure they know the phone numbers prior to going out?
If they're old enough, but the other idea is to write it with the Sharpie on their hand, because some of them, I mean, my 5-year-old, the baby, she's not gonna know. The other 2 know the phone number, but because then they're by all of these houses too, and everybody has a cell phone. So I always say, find a mom.
Call if lost. Call if lost.
Call
Put
if
the
lost
phone
right
number
on the
there.
forehead. But yeah, that's
That's what I
always
was
the
gonna
backup. But that's
ask
a
you.
really good question, is like knowing where to go, because also where to go, and if you have to cross a street, because you can say a spot, but if your 5-year-old gets lost, you don't want them crossing a street to
Right.
get to that spot.
Yeah.
So you know, staying at the house is a really good suggestion, and finding a mom to call.
That is what I was gonna say, Monica, is who do you ask for help? Or who do you accept help from? A key rule has always been like a mom with other kids. I don't know if you guys have other things that you tell your kids about, like who can you accept help from or who can you ask for help from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think that's.
I know one thing I tell our children, don't ever go in somebody else's house when you're
Yes.
trick or treating.
Yeah.
That's a huge rule that I remember
Yeah.
constantly telling our kids, because the first thing they want to do is people that are giving out candy, they want to walk in the house. It's like almost like, you know, a natural thing for the children to do. So we would tell our kids, don't ever go into somebody else's house. But what you mentioned something, Marquis, which I think is a really great suggestion, is look for a mom with children. You know, if you were to, make a suggestion, I think that's look for a mom with children that is trick or treating and tell them you need help to find your mom. I think that's a great one. I haven't used that one, but I think that's a great one.
If I can be honest, I've never gone over any of these rules with Harrison, and he's been trick or treating since he was like 3. Like,
Yeah.
you guys are making me think, wow. I mean, and he's been safe because I've been with him, but I'm like, I've never done any of these things with him. Like, and I'm just really close to him, but I'm like, these are actually really good ideas that I probably should have done when he was younger.
But in all fairness, Stephanie, I think like maybe you haven't gone over those rules because you get to focus on Harrison, one child. Like with 3, I just remember going, I can't believe I agreed to take the kids out. My wife's drinking wine with all her friends passing out candy, and I'm like trying to follow all 3 of them, so that's when it gets complicated, I mean, even with just 2, it's like, you have to really try to, herd these kids together. It's like herding cats, everybody's going in a different direction. And in fact, I'll tell you a quick funny story. I took my son and some of his friends to Universal Studios for the first time during their it's during the Halloween, I forgot what they call it, but you get to, what is it called? Horror Nights. And had no idea, and I took 7 kids, and my buddy goes, do you want me to go with you? And I'm like, sure. And I'm so glad he came, and he was the one that suggested that we wear the glow-in-the-dark necklaces. So we get out and it's completely crowded. They're smaller than everyone else, and pitch black, and like 3 clowns on stilts just rise from the crowd. And they started up real, without blades, saw machines, and they were so loud, and all 8 kids ran in different directions. And I'm like, oh my God. But luckily they had the glow in the dark things, and we were able to gather them. And luckily my friend offered to come with me. So he went and retrieved 4, I retrieved 4. And I'm like, I was way over my head on that one. But, it's still similar to Halloween where you have your kids and you're out trick or treating. We're out in a big crowd, lots of people, it's dark, and all of a sudden they just scattered. But yeah, again, we talked about the glow in the dark nightsticks and the necklaces. I think that, that's huge. It'll make your life a lot easier when you're trick or treating with your kids.
I was going to say the same thing with the 2 adults being around, though. Even trick or treating, I was going to say, like, it doesn't matter how many kids, I guess, whatever the group is that you have, there's going to be kids that maybe are younger that don't want to go up to certain houses, and other kids that do, or other kids that are like in the middle, they want to go, but they want you to go with them. So it's always nice to have, I think, 2 adults, because then one can stay back on the sidewalk with those that don't want to go up. And then, you could still feel like you could be there with the other kids, because I think that gets, especially with the different ages and the different scariness of the houses, I feel like 2 adults, if possible, is always great when you have more than 1 kid.
Well, and then, when the older ones are a lot quicker too. They're running to the first one, running to the next house. And then the youngest one is like barely getting to the first house you're at. And your 2 older ones are at the second and third house already. So yeah, it is nice when you have like a team of adults working together. No question. We brought something up earlier, and I want to go back to it. We didn't talk about it yet in terms of, during this panel, but, my biggest thing with all ages is the kids getting their candy coming home, and they want to keep it in their room. And we've always made it a rule, like, you can take a couple pieces tonight, which is not a great idea, giving the kids sugar on a Halloween night, because we've had experiences where it's hard for them to go to sleep. But we keep the candy in our rooms and we hide them. Do any of you guys like monitor, or do you guys keep the candy, or do you let them take and have all their candy and control it on their own?
I think it depends on age. For me, I take my son's candy and I give it to him, throughout the day. Just a couple of pieces for the day, 3 or 4 pieces, and that's about it.
How about you, Stephanie? What have you done in the past?
We do the Switch Witch. So the switch, I mean, he's going to grow out of the Switch Witch soon, but essentially, like, he can keep a little bit of candy, and the rest of the candy he leaves out for the Switch Witch to come and bring him a gift. And
The
then
Switch Witch does what? I'm sorry.
the Switch Witch brings a gift. So she takes the candy and then she leaves like a small gift. So
Love that.
yeah, so it's something super small that could be like a small gift card or not a very like Pokemon cards or something, but then
Yeah.
it's a buy-in to be like, I get some candy, but then she comes and she takes it away. And then that candy is either thrown away or another adult eats it, but then it's gone. Like there's no possibility of him getting the candy.
I
And
love that.
That's
Yeah,
a great way
so-
for portion control. That's a good portion control strategy right there.
If he gets,
Yeah.
when he grows out of that too, I know a lot of dentists will do the thing where that you can go bring your candy in, and then they'll give you something.
Yeah.
Or
That's
you
nice.
could just go get him something after he donates his candy, because a lot of people donate it for like, what is it, for overseas.
yeah, for like military or something, they send it off to them. But I feel like my sister used to go in and like steal her candy from my parents' bedroom. And so I feel like, well, there's a will, there's a way, and they're going to find it. And it's worked. He gets a small amount, and then I'm not stuck eating, because as parents, what happens? We eat the candy. Like we know when we're hiding the candy, we're in the bedroom eating the candy. Like it's just
Well,
Guilty.
I already went to Costco and got 2 huge bags of candy to pass out, you know? They're already halfway done. the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's not even October 1st yet.
Oh, that's
Love it.
hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. I
Love
always recommend to parents that they don't notice over a couple of days if you throw them away.
no.
They don't have like their count, but if you as a parent can't throw them away and you want to eat them, that's absolutely a thing.
Well, we do with the candies when they get home from trick or treating, they dump all of the candy out in a big pile. It like doesn't matter whose it is, it all goes into one pile, and then they all get to pick out 20 pieces of candy and they put it in a Ziploc bag, and they might have like a piece or two that night, but then they get to keep, and they have a bag with their name on it, and that's what they get to keep, and then everything else gets sent away. We just say that we give it to kids that. I mean, I might eat some, but I mean, we do give it away. We just get rid of it. And there's so much candy that they don't really like anyway. And, you know, so they get to pick out their 20 favorite pieces, and then that's it. And then sometimes because they come in early, because my kids will trick or treat early, we'll dump it back into the giveaway pile from the big kids that are coming like later on in the evening.
That's a
So
good idea.
we'll just re-give it away.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Have you guys seen that Jimmy Kimmel where the kids wake up the next morning and
funny.
the parents have all these wrappers and they're like, I'm so sorry, like I ate the candy, and just they film the reaction of the kids. Have you guys seen that?
Funny.
I love
Those
that.
are hilarious.
I
It
love
is
that.
amazing. If you haven't seen it, you have to YouTube it. It's the best.
It's interesting, the different reactions of the different kids. Like the so sweet kids where they're like, oh, it's okay, mommy, I don't mind. Like, I'm not mad at you. And the kids that lose their mind, that have lost their candy. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing. I've always wanted to do it. Have any of you guys done that? I've always wanted to do
do it, Monica. Do it.
Maybe
this
this
year.
year, maybe
Film
this way
it.
the year. I'm gonna start saving all the wrappers of the candy I've been eating.
Love it. How about checking candy? You know, Keita, with your little ones, like after like last Halloween, after they're trick or treating, are you like sorting and separating loosely wrapped candy so that they don't have access to it, or anything that's been torn or ripped or look like it's been opened up?
Yeah, I mean, when they pull out their 20 pieces that they want, we look at them and make sure that they're pieces that are, you know, totally sealed, and also that actually they'll like them, because sometimes they think the wrapper looks cool. I'm like, you're not gonna like this, but and then those will get separated, and then all the rest, you know, we'll just either, you know, give away or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to love Tootsie Rolls, but I was so bummed because at that time they were the wrappers were the twist wrappers,
Yeah.
and my parents wouldn't allow me to have them. Now you see the Tootsie Rolls, a lot of them, they're like sealed. Yeah. So, you know, my parents would separate and sort, and we didn't get to pick the candy. They're like, you get this, and then these were thrown away because they're loose wrappers, which was always a bummer as kids, but there was just so much candy.
Yeah.
Do you ever tell them why you're throwing out something, or they can't have certain ones, like, or does it depend on the age?
I mean, we
think it's
did. We
important
just,
to let them know, but I also do think it depends on age. Like, I'm not going to explain that to Noah, who's 4 years old, but to Harrison, who's 9, if I'm not mistaken,
Almost 11. Yeah.
11. And so I would definitely tell him that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he can look out it for himself, because what if there's a piece of candy or wrapper that you miss, and
Well,
then he opens it and he's like, "Oh, this one
Yep.
was loose, Mom. All right, good catch, bud. Throw it away."
So it's interesting you say that, because the other day he was eating, had some like Hershey's like in a bag, like as a snack. And there was one that it was a sealed bag, but it was a Hershey's in a wrapper that was unsealed. And he's like, Mom, like this is unsealed. Can I have it? And I was like, oh, well, I mean, it was in a sealed bag. The factory probably didn't, but I was like, no, let's just throw it out just in case. But it's not even Halloween, and he already has that going for like candy outside of, that time of the year. So yeah, it's an important, I think, rule, because unless you know the person, like even like homemade gifts. So sometimes, I remember going trick or treating, you'd have like popcorn balls, like homemade popcorn balls, and they'd be like in a Ziploc bag. And
Oh, yeah.
that's what families hand out to the kids. I was never allowed to have that. And I've passed that on to Harrison, where it's like, nope, if it's unless you know the house and you're friends with them, you are not allowed to take homemade candy gifts, because you just don't know.
Are a lot of people in your areas doing like the things alternative to candy gifts or little prizes and things like that? Because I know
I've
that's
seen
been kind of
that.
a
I think sometimes, not a lot though. I feel
Yeah.
like it's still a lot of
Mostly candy.
candy.
Yeah.
It's mostly candy. I feel like those houses get kind of bad mouth a little bit. And so no one goes there. They're like giving away pencils and like, other things, because kids want the candy. I think it's a great idea. It's way too much candy for these kids.
That's
And
why
I feel
they
like it's
call it-
more and more.
That's why they call it trick or treat. Those houses that give out the pencils get the trick.
Trick.
Yeah, I get that's right. Yes.
They're gonna have the teenagers coming back with the eggs.
There you go. And that's where the other rules fall into play about not doing that.
Got it. Also, speaking on a topic of safety still, but switching a little bit of a gear, how do you guys feel about letting your kids go into some of the houses that have like the haunted houses, mazes and stuff like that? Would you let them go in alone? Is that like an age dependent thing, or is it safe because there's a whole ton of other kids going through?
My kids are too scared. I haven't had that yet.
Okay. I think that's a situation where if it's like a neighborhood where there's a lot of people there and there's a lot of people going through that haunted house, definitely do so. But
Yeah.
if you're in one of those desolate neighborhoods again, and there's like that one or two random houses that's like walk on through, it's like, no, I'll pass. Yeah.
Yeah, at a very young age, we would walk through the haunted house with them. As they got older and they were a little more independent, they would go by themselves. Also, the haunted houses were usually within our neighborhood or people we knew. Everywhere that I've taken my kids trick or treating, I was familiar with the neighborhood, so I was comfortable with the haunted houses. I don't know. I don't think we've ever taken our kids to a neighborhood that we weren't familiar with.
Got it. Absolutely.
Do you guys guide your kids or teach your kids like what to say when you're approaching the adults or you're approaching the candy bowl? How many pieces
Yes.
are you allowed to take?
Yeah. I think as kids get older, especially with those candy bowls that are like take one because the family went out trick or treating, a lot of kids, especially the older ones, want to dump the whole bowl into their bag. And I think last Halloween was the first Halloween Harrison kind of had that idea. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, you're not the only person that's doing this. And how would you feel if you came up? And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. I don't think he would have, but the temptation's there. It's a full bowl of candy. But I think it's important to like teach your kid, not only it's why it's like, how would you feel if you went up to a bowl and it was completely empty and you didn't get any candy, and then about honesty and why they left the candy out there. I think it's a good, even if you don't say it beforehand and you're going out, it's a good teachable moment to teach them in that moment, but it's also like a life lesson. It's not just a now lesson.
I think the big thing that we were always very adamant about with our kids is that when they said trick or treat and the adult put the candy in the bag, like very big with make eye contact and say thank you. That was we were with every house, make eye contact and say thank you.
Yep. Yeah, that's important, I think. I feel like a lot of kids are just like grabbing and getting and forgetting their manners at that point because they're so excited. They're just so excited to be going from house to house. But I found myself, yelling, don't forget to say thank you as they walk away, or trick or treat, because sometimes they'll just go and like put their bag out and not say trick or treat.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get the families that will not give the candy unless they say trick or treat, which I
Oh,
That breaks
Fine,
my
dude.
heart.
great. Well, I think it's great because it's like it's part of Halloween. It's part of the custom of saying trick or treat, and you get the candy, and that's it.
Well, sometimes some kids can't say trick or treat, but I think if
True.
they go up and they put up their bag, but it depends on the age too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're like 1, right, versus like 7. But I think if you're not able to say trick or treat, then I think a parent would be along there with the kid, kind of getting
Help.
them along to say it. I would think.
yeah.
What are some of the activities, whether with or without children, you guys have enjoyed doing right before Halloween? Like, for example, I would guess, and we used to do this, it was a big deal to carve pumpkins, but I'd like to hear more about some of your guys' experiences, pre-Halloween festivities.
Carving pumpkins. That's about as festive as, and decorating the house. Like we don't really
Yeah.
do any. I feel, I'm not from here, and so it just doesn't feel like fall. I've lived here for so many years, but it's not like cold and crisp, and it's like hot. And for me, it's I've been to pumpkin and it's hot. Like I don't want to. I'll try to do everything I can to talk Harrison out of going to a pumpkin patch.
So basically, so our audience and viewers, truly understand we're here in California, with the exception of Monica Yanokita, who's up in Oregon near Portland. But yeah, I grew up in California. And, Stephanie, you're from Michigan, so you had at least 4 seasons, right?
Yeah.
We have 1 season. So it's very rare that you in California, depending on where you're at, you can almost get away with wearing shorts all year long. But
Yeah.
I have a funny story about that, is that when I moved up here to Oregon, I'd only been in California for 39 years, and then moved here, and we went to a pumpkin patch with the kids with one of their schools, and we wore like cute shoes and a fun skirt and like, oh God, I was dressed up. And we get there and it is like full on mud. I mean, it is a full field and there's animals and there's whatever. And we get there and we're like literally wearing like cute shoes and we're stepping in mud. And I was like, oh, these aren't like the pumpkin patches in California.
Yeah.
California is a parking lot, not a pumpkin
Yeah.
patch.
It's
Yes.
a parking lot with
Yeah,
hay.
that's exactly what I was used to. And I was like, oh, we actually go and you get on a tractor and you go and pick your pumpkin and they're making cider from scratch. And I mean, it's a whole thing. Everybody's wearing like jeans and boots, like rain boots, because it's been raining and it's muddy. And I was like, all right, got it.
learning
Another fun
experience.
activity that we used to do, and this was more because we always didn't have the finances to get costumes for everybody, but my mom would sit my brother and I down and take like all old clothes and materials in our house and come up with our own costumes and create them.
Oh, I
So
love that.
we did that like 2 years in a row. I forgot. I did like a construction worker one day because I was able to use my dad like construction belt and like his hard hat, and then I just put on a pair of jeans and like took black marker and a brown marker and like colored dirt on the jeans and stuff and cut holes in them and stuff like that. So creating costumes is a really fun activity. Like those are things that stood out to me when I was young and for Halloween, and it's a good activity to prepare your kids for. So.
Okay, quickly before we end, each one of you, tell us what was your favorite costume, regardless of age, that you wore over the years in Halloween. Yanokita, start.
M&M box. An
Love
M&M
it.
box.
M&M box. Marquis.
I was a pink Power Ranger about 3 years in a row as a kid.
Nice. Nice. What about you, Doris Taylor?
a princess?
A princess. Love it. Stephanie.
I was a child of the 80s, and so I was strawberry shortcake with like the mask and the plastic costume for like
Yeah.
3 or 4 years in a row.
Yeah. Keon, how about you?
Mine was as an adult. 2 years ago when Noah was born, I was the guy from Hangover who had the baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna see a picture
I
of
was
that.
the Hangover guy with the T-shirt, and I wore the glasses, and then I put Noah in the baby costume with the beanie and the baby glasses.
Oh,
Yeah, so that was the funnest thing. I can't think of his name, but yes.
So
Zach Galifianakis.
yeah,
Um,
I was going to tell you it was being a Jedi Knight, but then right now I was thinking in my 20s, I was Pat from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I want to see a picture of that. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
and
you're
I
gonna have
made-
to post these
yeah,
pictures or something.
I
the best
made the
costume.
costume.
Oh,
just
you
so know.
made it.
I
Oh,
made the
man.
costume. I did have to buy like some really big Dickies, but I had an extra large, like blue long sleeve shirt. I used pillows to make myself look bigger, and there was an old wig that we used from a previous, so I cut it really short so that and then I found some old sunglasses. I popped out the lenses, and I was Pat.
That's
That's
cool. That creating
fantastic.
costumes is awesome. My other creative costume, I said I had two. The other one was Waldo. I had like a, where's Waldo from Waldo?
Yeah.
Basically, we took like a Christmas sweater that I had, like a candy cane Christmas sweater that had horizontal stripes, and I was able to get the glasses, and the pants was easy,
That's
so,
a good
yeah.
one. I love those.
Good deal. I think we're going to tie it up. Monica, any last words?
No, thanks for participating in our Halloween edition. And
Excellent.
happy
So,
Halloween.
yeah, and if you want to learn a little more about Parents Like a Professional, check out our website, www.parentlikeaprofessional.com, and we will see all of you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.